The brink of war or the brink of snore? Your Pop Culture Contrarians went and saw the movie this weekend, and we're going to let you know what we think. So this is a movie about Ronald Reagan and I should have looked up his first name, Mikhail Gorbachev, right?
Mikhail Gorbachev.
Yes. And their big summit meeting, not a summit, in Iceland.
AKA the middle of absolute nowhere.
The house in Iceland, which you had a name for, Thomas, but I call the house in Iceland.
Yeah. Hovase.
Hovase.
And that means haunted a house in
I don't know. It's just the
Icelandic.
name of the house. Yeah. It's in Reykjavík.
This is a real event that actually happened where these two geopolitical leaders met up and discussed, basically, are we going to go to nuclear war with each other?
Mm-hmm.
Probably. Not exactly, but it had to do with nukes, that's for sure.
Yeah, the future of humanity.
Yeah.
Well, if things had fallen apart, it seemed like war was pretty much what was going to happen. That's the title of the movie. Yeah.
That's the stakes that they wanted to present.
Right.
Yes. So, Angel Studios, they've done it again. They have covered a topic that is interesting and relevant to the audience.
And I think kind of historically important. I mean, how many movies have we gotten about World War II? Mm-hmm. We haven't gotten nearly enough about the Cold War yet. I mean, we've gotten a lot about the Cold War, but this event happened 40 years ago. I didn't know that much about it. I heard about it in the Reagan movie.
Dennis Quaid riding a horse.
Yes, riding a horse many times.
And that was the entire movie.
Yes,
just kidding.
Movie.
Just kidding.
So this movie, I joked about it being brink of snore, but it does feature an awful lot of two men sitting at a table talking seriously.
It's interesting if you like following debate tactics.
That's true.
It's also for history. I mean, this was a significant event, and they followed it pretty closely.
Yeah,
for the record, at least.
Yeah, and it does seem that way. I learned things from this movie that I didn't know before. The most obvious thing that I was surprised about is apparently Gorbachev and Reagan actually talked about a zero nuclear future, about getting rid of all nuclear weapons.
Yeah,
right.
I will say in the movie, if there's an exciting part, it's those moments to me. Like, this is actually on the table? Zero nukes is on the table?
Yeah.
You're like, yes!
Yeah.
And then it falls apart.
I think the important thing, too, is for us who are so far 40 years from this event, it's hard to try to get ourselves into the mindset of what was the big concern of the era at the time, that what was the biggest fear for people.
Yeah.
The reality of possible nuclear war that could basically
end life
on planet Earth was a real
mutual destruction.
Yeah, it was a real fear for Americans. The Soviets were the bad guys, deservedly so.
They had more nukes.
They had, and they had a ton of them, and
they claimed they had more nukes.
Yeah.
They had,
for all intents and purposes.
Yeah,
right.
We believed them.
They had the Tsar bomb.
That was long before this.
It was before this, but then they were showing their power of what they were able to blow up.
Yeah, I mean and I think even that one they tested at half strength because they were worried about what would happen if they did it at full strength.
That one, people got something like 2nd degree or 3rd degree burns 60 miles away from the epicenter.
Crazy. Holy cow!
While we're rabbit trailing on nuclear, which I think we should, because when we talked about the Oppenheimer movie, that was something that struck me, is how we have not yet, we may not ever come to grips with the fact that there is now within humans' ability the capability of destruction of life on planet Earth.
Yeah, ending the world.
That didn't used to exist. Yeah. Now it does, and I don't know, as long as that exists, if we're ever gonna be able to really grasp that and handle that. Well, but before I get too far on that, on the nuclear thing, just an interesting little tidbit is apparently going for really big bombs like the Tsar bomba is kind of counterproductive because you can double the strength of a nuclear weapon, right? But it doesn't double the radius of the ground that is affected by it. So really it makes more sense to make lots of little bombs rather than one really big one. Yeah. Because with two bombs that can do a 10-mile radius, you can get two cities. With one that's twice as big as the 10-mile radius one, you can still pretty much just get one city.
Yeah. So. And it just makes it more dead.
More deader.
More deader. One city more deader.
Yes.
Well, I think just continuing on the issue of nuclear war and warfare and weaponry, it's still an issue. I mean, this is why why Trump right now is doing what he's doing with Iran. Mm-hmm. Because the prospect of somebody who would actually be willing to use this stuff.
Yeah, a rogue state.
Yeah. We don't ever want to see that. And so going back to this film, you have the leaders of the two superpowers at the time meeting up and saying, is there a way we can kind of figure out a way to not end up launching these at one another?
Right, which I'm a fan of, personally. Yeah. Well, we're here, the Pop Culture Contrarians, Thomas, Sterling, and Andrew, and we're brought to you by the Patriot Post, which is the oldest conservative news digest on the web. It's right and it's free. Go like and subscribe to that. It comes every Monday through Friday to your email at noon. And we're launching a brand new website, which is very exciting.
Go check it out.
Go check it out. Hit that bell icon on YouTube or wherever you're watching us so you know when we upload a new episode. Let us know what you'd like us to talk about next and what you think about this episode. This is Angel Studios, and they're getting up there, actually. They're actually kind of becoming a studio of note, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, they're attracting really top actors.
Right. I mean, they are constantly in the theaters.
Yeah. What was it that Young Washington made, Thomas? You've been keeping track of this. It's close to 50 million?
It's close to 50,
yeah. And then this movie, it's a drama, probably an extremely low budget because you don't need CGI for this.
Right.
But it's made like $5 million, which is not terrible for a drama. If you're looking at the quality of the actors, it's very impressive. They had Jeff Daniels playing Ronald Reagan, and I thought he did a pretty good job. They kind of made him a little bit fatter than I think Reagan actually was.
I wasn't sure if that was just if Daniels did kind of get heavier for it, or if they actually had him in a kind of a fat suit.
Yeah. Well, did you watch all the way to the end of the movie where they have the special announcement?
Yeah.
I thought he didn't have as much. He wasn't as jowly.
Right, but my question was time. When did they film it, and then how long was it after they filmed it that they have him give the little post message? I don't know. It's a good question. But aside from the fact that he's a little bit overweight for what I think Reagan would have been at the time, I thought he did a great job. The most criticism is going to fall on him as far as, because Reagan is such an iconic figure. Yeah. And he had a memorable, very distinct voice, cadence, and mannerism. It kind of was to me that Jeff Daniels decided, I can't quite get the voice. Yeah. You can hear him go in and out of it occasionally. You can. But I think he really leaned into the idea of, can I just embody him as far as this force of personality? Yeah. On that front, I thought he did a pretty good job. Yeah, agreed. I had little qualms with his acting. There was a kind of a funny bit, and maybe this is just something where I, as someone who didn't live through the Reagan era, and I don't really know Reagan personally as much as any American would have, I assume this wouldn't have been kept in if it wasn't authentic Reagan. But there's a moment near the beginning of the movie where he's entering the house. They've just pulled up, and he's at the bottom of the steps, and then he kind of runs up them, with a little peculiar, funny little gait there. And I assume that must be authentic Reagan, because why else would you have that in the movie? Yeah. There's a couple things I think they were trying to communicate. Perception, PR battle. Yeah. Which was, they did a good job of trying to, show in this in various elements. One of the things that Reagan did was kind of like, he's kind of known as this kind of wild cowboy type, but he wanted to kind of show the Russian, I'm tough enough for this cold weather too. Yeah. And when Gorbachev shows up, he's actually in his overcoat, and Reagan greets him, and he's not in his he's just in his dress coat. Was Gorbachev? I wasn't paying attention because his wife tells him in the movie not to wear the overcoat.
Take the light coat.
Take the light coat. Oh, okay. So it was this kind of
it needs to be a Russian, can't be cold.
Right. Can't be cold. So I think there was some interesting back and forth. Reagan's 3 or 4 inches taller than him, so that's already automatically that's a kind of a negative look for the shorter leader. So Gorbachev is played by Jared Harris, who he does a fantastic job. I like Jared in everything I've seen him in.
I do too. Yeah.
I thought he was probably the best of this movie. Yeah, I thought he was the one that was the most, you felt like, and I don't know Gorbachev that well. All of us are seeing Gorbachev as Americans. Yeah. This is Russian, so he has an accent. I don't know, we don't have this kind of sense of really knowing his authentic accent. Yeah. So if you just throw a Russian accent in there, okay. It's good enough for me. Yeah. Whereas when we're talking about Jeff Daniels, we're like, I didn't really get the Reagan accent. So from that standpoint, I felt he really, and he did him well and fair, like a believable human being with real kind of concerns and perspective. He wasn't just, I am Mr. Russian and I hate America. That's what I noticed as well, is that
they did not portray Gorbachev as some cackling villain, not in the slightest.
No.
He is absolutely, you believe this is a man who maybe, I guess, he believes in the Soviet movement, but he does not want the world to end in nuclear fire, and he's genuinely operating in good faith to try and prevent that.
Well, and especially in those private moments that he shares with his wife on the ship.
Right.
Particularly, I think about where they're trying to keep from being heard by the KGB, and they're talking very candidly in the bathroom with the water going. And he is sharing like his genuine concerns, like people are going to starve. Yeah. This is going to destroy our country if we can't fix this. I really, I liked the human element.
Yep. Yeah, it was very good. The third lead, of course, was J.K. Simmons as George Shultz, who is Secretary of State.
Yeah.
And
it almost looked like him.
Well, because they show an image of the real George Shultz at the end of the movie, and I was struck.
It was like, wow. Really a great match.
It was a great match.
Yeah. That was probably on par with Jared Harris.
Yeah.
His depiction was really good too.
Well, J.K. Simmons, again, I mean, all three of these guys, I like everything I've really seen him in, but J.K. Simmons especially, like, how can you not love J.K. Simmons? He's fantastic.
Yeah, he's great.
But some of the lesser characters were fairly well known as well. This is not Angel Studios of the Sound of Freedom days where you got one actor, and it was a Christian actor, and then everyone else was an unknown. You had Hope Davis, who, I don't really know her name from things, but you've seen her around, and she played Nancy Reagan. And then Aya Cash, who played the NPR reporter, she played a big role in the Boys TV show, which is, these are not like obvious gets for Angel Studios. This is clear. It was clear to me watching this and watching the trailers ahead of the movie that Angel has had some negotiating breakthrough with actors in Hollywood in getting them to come on their films, because they're just getting the top tier talent at this point, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is showing, this film will go a long ways to continue to build that, I think.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that, when I was reading a review, I agree with on this, Angel Studios bills itself as very much of a faith-based kind of studio system, right? Now, there is one scene in particular where there's kind of a discussion about religion.
Yeah.
But by and large, we're going to talk about history here and what happened. We're not going to go into too much interpretive kind of dialogue.
Yeah. Well, and even that scene where they're discussing religion, if I'm thinking of the right one, is very kind of generic. They're talking about Christmas. I think even someone who goes to church on Christmas and Easter would follow and feel like they identify with the Christianity depicted in that and feel like, oh yeah, that's representative of me. Not just the regular weekly churchgoers.
Yeah, it's a American cultural.
Yeah,
right.
I'm also thinking of the point that Gorbachev tries to make that Jesus was a socialist. Remember that?
God, you hear that one all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
It's such a weak argument.
It is.
I agree. I just think that would be a classic argument that a socialist would make.
And they do.
Oh, come on, Peter, not this again.
And
even today.
And so I thought it was believable that kind of back and forth could happen, because the concern that Reagan was about, which the movie brings up, which is true, is Reagan makes a big point about human rights. And the fact that the Soviet Union has a poor record on human rights.
Right.
And so this was Gorbachev trying to push back against the narrative, and trying to suggest that, no, you guys have higher murder rate than we do,
right?
And you guys have higher crime rate, all this other stuff. Reagan's point was, you don't allow people to be free. That comes around at the very end of the film, and I thought they did that effectively, because I was kind of wondering what's going to be the big takeaway. And I thought that was actually a very satisfying big takeaway at the end,
which is that Reagan's whole intent the entire time, even though zero nuclear future was on the table, it wasn't about zero nuclear future for him, even though he would have taken it. It was about destroying communism.
It was a masterful chess game.
Yeah.
And, frankly, a game of ulterior motives.
Well, he kind of, because that's what Reagan does, talking about the chess game, is he gets the Russians to basically admit they can't afford to keep up technologically with
Gorbachev
SDI.
Mentions in his private moments, like, he's right about that.
Right. And then he gets them to basically admit that they need American help.
Yeah.
And then finally he gets them to admit that their people want to come visit the U.S., which there's a real historical person who was involved in this, whose name I did not look up, so I don't have it ready.
Yeah.
But it's a musical composer who had defected from Russia, from the USSR, and Reagan agrees, hey, Gorbachev, let his sister come visit him for his birthday, and I'll make sure she goes back home, which is that's the big concession.
Right.
Because Gorbachev has to admit she wants to defect, and I have to get Reagan's word that she'll come home.
Well, there's a great line at that moment where he says a journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. And they've had this huge conversation about the most monumental, nuclear
denuclearization
ever. And then it seemingly all falls apart. And then Reagan takes that first step. It's like, we are trying to get to this massive end goal.
Right.
And we've tried to jump all the way to the end effectively, although he had different motives.
Right.
And he wanted to take that first step. He wanted to plant that seed, as we say as Christians when we're evangelizing. Just that little bit, and then the rest could take root.
Yeah, he's trying to pull out the foundations of the whole system. I thought it was interesting that from like a real world Machiavellian point of view, the deal Reagan gets offered is worth almost any cost. I mean, no nuclear weapons. Almost anyone would give almost anything for no nuclear weapons worldwide. And Reagan says, no, I'm not willing to give up the Strategic Defense Initiative, Star Wars, the ability to protect my people in exchange for not having nuclear weapons. He wants the protection even if there's nothing to protect against. And because he also wants the greater goals of overthrowing communism. But I thought it was interesting that the movie presents it as him facing a realistic peace offer or an unrealistic victory condition that's not guaranteed. And by the end of the movie, if you don't know the future, you think, wow, that was a big screw up on his part. He should have taken the deal.
Yeah, and of course he couldn't have known the future. I think it was Reagan recognizing what we can compromise on and what is what we will not compromise on. And he would not compromise on protecting the American people.
And human rights in general.
And human rights. Well, I think what Reagan, we're kind of in this moment right now in one sense. Reagan understood communism, and he understood that communism was just evil.
Yeah.
And it subjects people to misery and death and slow destruction. He needed more than anything to demonstrate clearly the distinction between America and our values and what the Soviet Union was and its values, and why we were morally better. And so I think that was part of the concern of his, and that's where he gets, at the end, he gets his victory. He said, we got him to admit, basically, you guys are, morally better.
Right.
And I think he was like, that's the big win, because once you get that, everything else is eventually going to fall to that.
Yeah.
Because that's what he demonstrated. And I think right now we're in this argument with socialism has the answers that will help make and alleviate the struggles with high costs and housing costs and all this other stuff. Socialism has the answers. But what socialism exchanges for those quote answers is your own individual freedom.
Yeah.
You're giving that away to a state that's going to rule you, and guess what? You're not guaranteed any of what it's promising.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. Let's come back to that when we get to the writing section of our ratings.
Okay.
But let's get to the ratings. So the first category is very simple here. This might be the last time we give you our woke-free rating on a movie. We're workshopping that. But for this one, it's Angel Studios, and it's a real-world historical movie, and it shows things pretty much as they happened. I gave it a 10 on woke-free. I didn't really... There was one thing possibly, but I couldn't find anything one way or another on it, so I gave it a 10 on it's woke-free. This is not a woke movie.
10 as well. It's pretty easy to do that with Angels. Not always.
Right. On Animal Farm, they screwed that up.
Generally speaking, 10.
I give it a 9 for a specific reason, and it has to do with what I just don't think was accurate, and that has to be with the secret or the CIA and who the CIA was made up of down in that house.
Yeah.
I was thinking this is Angel Studios saying, if we want this to have any Oscar bait potential, we have to have the diversity box checked.
So that's the thing I was researching, and I was trying to find anything one way or another on it. I couldn't. I could have taken a point off for the same reason. So the leader of the CIA downstairs in the basement, there's a very interesting dynamic throughout the movie where the CIA are literally sharing a room with the KGB, and there's a little line down the middle.
They have separate bathrooms.
Right. And the leader of the CIA is a woman who I couldn't tell, was she a black woman?
She's a woman of color. Yeah. That's the best way to put it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, Thomas, you wokester.
Yeah. One quick anecdote about that. I won't take too long on this, but for me personally, I actually enjoyed a lot of that dynamic, both in that context and also the reporters for a specific and personal reason. And it is my wife's late grandfather was an ABC reporter and journalist and radio personality for many years. And he also worked on the Reagan campaign. And he was involved in those kinds of situations frequently throughout some of the most, famous parts of history. And I've heard a lot of stories, a lot like what I was seeing in that moment. And just for my personal satisfaction, it kind of made me think of him because I knew that if I had shown that to him when he was still alive, he would have told me a story about where he was in a room like that. And it would have been real. So,
I just gave them the benefit of the doubt on perhaps they actually did their research, and that's the realistic depiction of what it was like in that basement. There's no way to tell. The CIA is pretty secretive.
I think it was probably the setup was probably similar. Even the anecdotes with the bathroom kind of stuff. I thought that was well done. I'm just saying, the makeup of the CIA, who was there. I have questions.
Yeah, it might not have been accurate.
That's where I'm saying I'm giving them benefit of the doubt. But it is benefit of the doubt. It's valid to take a point off.
Given what we're dealing with in Hollywood, I could see why they would just make the easy call on that.
Yeah, fair enough. Yep. All right, so writing. I thought there were some really good bits of writing in this movie. The bit that kind of stuck with me, that's a point that I've heard a little bit more recently, but not traditionally in anti-communist circles. Reagan makes the point about, I keep forgetting that your whole country is all atheists, which of course he didn't forget. And then he talks about how your people have nothing to strive for. There's nothing in the afterlife worth striving for, and it's already utopia here on Earth, according to the Soviet state. So you can't even fight for better conditions because you already have perfect conditions. This is the utopia. And when you die, there's nothing. So he's making the point that there's absolutely no point to striving in a true Soviet communist Marxist system. And that kills your spirit. If there's nothing to strive for, I mean, what is it that Jordan Peterson says? That happiness actually is making progress towards a goal. In a Soviet system, there are no goals to progress towards.
Right. It's just existence.
Yeah. So I thought that bit where he highlighted that point was very good writing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I gave it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I gave it a 7 as well. I mean, it's a dialogue movie. Yeah, and the dialogue was good. It was there were several takeaways where I just thought like, that was a zinger.
You're right.
You know, yeah, 7.
Yeah,
I gave it an 8. I thought it was really well written. I thought also in doing a little bit of research on the history, it followed it pretty tightly. I think this would be one of those movies you could put in a classroom in a high school and say, this does a good job of depicting the Reykjavík summit. It was written well enough to try to even capture, like we said, with capture the personalities pretty well.
Jared
Harris does, Gorbachev. I know that Gorbachev and Reagan actually I don't know if you would say a friendship, but they did develop a sincere appreciation for one another. The historical record shows. And I thought that was kind of displayed there, that they both saw each other as real people and not just competitors, but also people that represented the interests of their own people, and they were very real about that. So I thought the writers did a good job putting this script together and trying to, make it work.
Yeah, agreed. Artistic value. I'll go first. I've got Thomas. You want to go first?
I think I give it an 8.
Yeah.
I mean, most of this was filmed in Iceland, and they take advantage of that. It feels cold. It feels barren. It feels exotic.
Yeah.
for anybody who, might be attracted to wanting to see that, I think this movie would just kind of make you feel like you're there.
Yeah. Andrew?
I gave it a 5. I'm rethinking that at this moment because I think that I fat-fingered that.
Oh, okay.
Actually. So I have thrown off the entire
rating system.
Yeah, but I probably would have actually given it an 8 if I had not done that.
Okay. I could whip out my calculator here. I gave it an 8 as well. I thought you're correctly pointed out the visuals were quite well done. There's nothing super fancy, but it's Iceland, and as long as you frame your shots with the landscape in the background, you're going to get some great shots, and they do. There is one artistic decision that I thought was really well done, which is when Gorbachev and Reagan are meeting, they're at this rectangular table, and they're at opposite ends, long end, and then their aides are on the short end.
Yeah.
And when they're meeting just the two of them, they're still on the long ends. But as they get closer to an agreement, specifically on zero nuclear, the table gets smaller and smaller and smaller until they're just about in each other's faces.
I think I made a note of that.
And then Gorbachev is saying, you can test SDI. Of course you can test SDI in a laboratory. Mm-hmm. And Reagan says, no, I have to be able to test it. And then suddenly the table's way longer than it ever was. Yep. And that was really a clever artistic decision.
Yeah. I'm glad you remembered that, Sterling.
Right.
I actually put that in my notes when I walked out of the theater, but it's been a few days.
Right. Well, at first I thought it was a gaffe, and they were just mistaking the size of the table. And then I was like, oh, I see what they're doing.
That was intentional. Yeah, that was great.
I did spot a gaffe in this movie where they just made a mistake. In the basement where the KGB and the CIA is based, they take the signs off of the bathrooms because they have one that says USA, one that says USSR, and there's a running theme throughout the movie that the bathrooms are constantly full because there's too many people in this house. They take the signs down as a detente, and then there's a scene where Reagan's coming downstairs right after that happens. And as he's coming down the steps, you see the USA sign still in the door. And then as he rounds the corner and the camera cuts, the USA sign is no longer in the door. So that was just a little tiny mistake there.
Yeah.
But
it happens.
Yeah. All right, Andrew, entertainment value?
I gave it a 5. I mean, it's fine.
Yeah.
But it's a dialogue movie.
Yeah.
If you really like that kind of thing, and if you're into following back and forth and debate and all that sort of stuff, but that's kind of a rare person, I think.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, but, you could fall asleep in it too.
So on that note, I also gave it a 5. And I was seeing this at just the wrong time of day for me. I won't blame the movie, but I did end up closing my eyes for a minute there. Whoops. I actually really liked the movie, the parts I saw. But
a ringing endorsement for the entertainment value.
There's no explosions or anything to make you open your eyes, or you have to be able to see what's going on. You can just kind of listen and know what's going on.
Thankfully, there were no explosions.
Yeah, thankfully.
Of course, if there were, then we'd all have been dead.
Yes, exactly. So
40 years ago.
I also gave it a 5 on entertainment value, although I really do agree. If you like political, historical movies, dramas specifically, you'll like this movie. It's good on those terms, without a doubt. Thomas?
Yeah, I gave it a 6. Kind of for all the same reasons. It's not action-packed by any means. Mm-hmm. I think it's satisfying for history buffs.
Yeah.
If you know the history well, this is their interpretation of that event. And they hit on, as far as I could tell, they were very accurate in their depiction.
Yeah.
Now, they also had their own takeaways, which aren't necessarily historically accurate. But, yeah, I thought it was very satisfying of a film.
And I think it's perfectly watchable and entertaining, even if you're not a history buff. They make sure you know who the characters are. You're not going to be confused about who the heck Gorbachev is.
And there's one more thing I just kind of want to think about regarding Reagan. Reagan, maybe we're far enough away from his presidency, finally, for the mainstream media not to make him into a caricature that they despise.
We'll see. I wouldn't hold my breath.
Well, this movie does a good job of just depicting Reagan as, I would say, a realistic depiction of Reagan.
Yeah.
That didn't try to, make him into a clown or something.
Right.
I thought that was very satisfying because it was like, okay, these are different people. This is events that happened. This was their motivations, etc. And it doesn't turn either of them into bad guys.
Yeah.
Some of the reviews I've read on it also have kind of focused more on the historical record here. And they don't have this kind of, Reagan was a terrible person, and they didn't pick him as depict him terribly. So this is not a good movie.
Right.
Well, to that point also, Thomas, I think they focus in on maybe a lesser focused on point, and that is the prominence and the importance of what Reagan did for the world.
Yeah.
Often, I think today, to your point of the whole caricature thing, people will throw darts at trickle-down economics, those who don't agree with it.
Right.
And they'll throw darts at the economic stuff and say it was terrible or whatever. Whether or not that is true really pales in comparison to the achievement that this was. I think in many ways the crown jewel of the Reagan administration.
Without a doubt. I mean, destroying the USSR, you couldn't hope for a better legacy than that. You can't realistically argue that that's not what Reagan did. Reagan destroyed the USSR.
Yes.
It took until just after his presidency for that to show up, but that's what he did.
Well, I mean, to the point of this, at the time when the summit ends, it's viewed as a complete failure.
Right.
You know, he's been building up arms like crazy and ignited an arms race. Everybody was like, what are you doing? Reagan said, we're going to, we're going to blow them out of the water. They can't keep up with us economically. We're going to prove it to them.
Right.
And so that's kind of interesting that now we're come full circle 40 years later, and like all the opinions of him then, especially from people that would have been on the left, have kind of cooled down to more of like a less emotional, less look at this more kind of like what actually occurred here, given the time and given the fact the Soviet Union does collapse, and given the fact that, hey, he was kind of right on a lot of this stuff.
Be interesting to see how that goes with the Trump administration 40 years from now.
If only we could see the future.
Stay tuned.
All right. Well, as we're talking about legacy, let's do our legacy scores on this movie.
Yes.
I'm just going to read them off because we're running a little bit short on time here. So I gave it a 7 on legacy. And remember, that means, are we going to be talking about it in 10 years? Andrew, you gave it a 3. Thomas, you gave it a 5.
Yeah.
Just to defend myself, since y'all were harsher, I was thinking along the point you made, Thomas, which is basically, I think kids are going to be shown this in classrooms. I believe the best movie on this particular event that has been made, I don't know of any others other than the Reagan movie touches on it. But this is all about every nook and cranny of how this went down.
I don't think there's another movie about this specifically.
So if you're being taught in a classroom at any point in the next 100 years about this, this is the movie to watch. I bet people will be watching it for that reason, and just history buffs.
Yeah.
Any counterpoints?
I mean, that's maybe a fair assessment for this film and others from Angel Studios, maybe Young Washington.
Right.
When it comes to the legacy and our traditional idea of what does legacy mean, maybe if you're considering a niche audience such as students, we could look at it a little bit differently, maybe be more lenient.
Yeah. But generally, you just don't think general audiences won't remember this movie.
I don't think so.
That's the idea. All right. Our total scores, and remember, Andrew fat-fingered, so it should be a little bit better. I gave it a 7.4. Andrew, you gave it a 6. Thomas, you gave it a 7.2, which leads us to a final rating of 6.9. Nice. And
you really did that, Sterling.
I really did that, Andrew. This is a pretty good movie. You should go watch it if you're at all interested in Reagan and communism and anything Angel Studios. I think you'll probably enjoy it. Any disagreement?
No, go take a look.
See it.
It's a good movie.
All right. Well, that's the review from the Pop Culture Contrarians, Thomas, Sterling, and Andrew, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
See you guys.